All right, let's start it off. I am your host. My name is James Whalen. Joining me today is the part-time co-host, John Wickholm.
Hello, my name is
Let's-
John.
Let's get a bit of background on you, John.
Obviously, let's roll. Let's do
yeah, go for it.
this. How about you, as the interviewer, ask me questions, and I will fill in all those gaps.
Sure.
Yeah.
So previously, you studied film, you studied acting, you did a little painting. So you're a little bit in the art world. So that's
Yeah, I would say that I am. If I want to sound cool, I would say I'm a multidisciplinarian in the arts, but it's not
Yeah.
true. I would say that I am an anxious person who gets very inspired by things and then just fucking runs. I just do whatever I want. I will study really hard and try practice and try to figure out how to do it the best. But I wouldn't say like this is all like long-term training. Like I started off, I got a lot of push from teachers that I was a really good writer in school.
yeah.
And I was really into like I was reading like Dune in high school. I was reading a lot of fantasy, Lord of the Rings, a lot of fiction stuff. And I was like, I love these worlds. I want to live in these worlds. So I started getting into writing, and then I stumbled into an art class. I'd always kind of sketched, but I didn't give a shit. And then I got into painting. Fell in love. I did painting
Yeah.
last year of high school through college. Like studied it, tried to not only do it right, but also completely fuck it up and do it fun. And then also in the same years of painting, I just slowly fell backwards into acting, theater acting. It was just I've always kind of been a loud personality, and anytime I ran into like a high school theater director or a college director, like you're perfect, you have no shame, you'll say anything, you're a fucking dumbass. So they just got dragged into it, and then from there I owned my own theater company, and then started making film with you, but still did like art shows as a painter. Like I did like live painting shows. Like that's this. No one gives a fuck about watching a painter paint. I'm a painter and I don't want to watch painters paint.
Right.
But I just have always blindly and passionately stumbled my way through the art world. And I think it's because I guess I've always wanted to find a way to express myself in certain ways and create worlds for people, and like it's always for the audience. Like it's why I was almost a teacher. I really want to give something to people, something to challenge them, something to inspire them, something for them to get lost in. And I don't think I've found the medium that I am best at, and that I can. I've never found an audience enough. Like so, I will pivot and be like, well, okay, I like making theater, but people like film more. It's a modern era. People would rather sit down and watch film than go pay so much money to go to a theater thing. Fuck it, let's do film. I can bring my art to them through film.
Yeah.
Well, and then I pivot again. Now I'm back to doing, and now I'm doing digital illustration. Like it is a constant roaming of me trying to find a way to express myself artistically and find an audience and give them something. And it just changes year to year. Yeah, honestly,
Yeah.
that's me. Just a fucking
Yeah.
dumbass.
Cool. So I have kind of a similar background. I have a film background. So I went to Columbia College for 4 years, and I've done like a bunch of film projects outside of Columbia, and I've always had like a fascination with like the paranormal stuff, and like you have too. Like we both talk about like
Oh, always. We grew up watching X-Files. How could you not?
oh yeah, dude. So it was like so I got this written down. Unsolved Mysteries,
Yep.
Coast to Coast AM.
Yep.
You know, what are the other ones? It's a Mysterious Universe.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
that's my
great podcast.
favorite jam.
Yeah.
So check them out if you love this type of stuff. So yeah, I have a film background. I'm a creative person. I do a little bit of drawing and stuff like that, and I think that creative people have they're more in tuned with like paranormal shit. You know, and like if you're more as an actor, you use your body as your tool for the medium. So, and I think that a lot of the psychic frequencies come through the body. So the body is like the translator for all of the psychic information that's out there. So, and the conscious mind has to kind of like make sense of it. And like we've done some experiments where we are trying to get some psychic information through, and it comes through in a very like dim and very like strange way. It's like you get these little pieces of it. You're seeing like a corner of the building. You're seeing a color. You're getting a smell. And you're not getting the whole picture. Like you're getting like you have to feel like what is there in a sense, and like it might come in like your normal everyday five senses. So the universe is trying to tell you something, and you're getting it in terms of like senses, when all you want is the fucking answer. Like, what is it? And it just gives you like, oh, there's a bird chirping and there's a car driving by, and we're like, what the fuck does that mean? You know?
I would say to continue with the analogy you were going with, I think that's a lot of what artists are doing. A lot of artists say, like, I have writer's block. Well, what do you want to write? I don't know. I'm waiting for it to come to me. I'm waiting for that inspiration. I'm waiting. Yeah. And a lot of times, even when you, like, I especially did this a lot with painting, and I found it to be very meditative, very, like, it was the most alone I could be. I would just, like, have a glass of whiskey or a beer. I'd have on like some really loud music to kind of help create the bubble. And then I would start working on a painting that I didn't really have a direction. And this was definitely at my more experimental phase, but even if I kind of knew what I wanted, I would say a lot of the time I didn't actually know how I was going to get there or what it was really going to turn out to be. And that's the fun of the adventure of, like, there was just a dim, tiny little fucking inspiration. Yeah. You're like, I'm going to chase that. And whatever that is, I'm going to find what that was and why it appealed to me emotionally, and I'm going to make it. Like, obviously some people know exactly what they want to make, and they just turn it out and they're fucking perfect, and fuck them. But no, I love them. But I think that's a very similar thing, is this wanting to, in a sense, illuminate something that you can feel but you can't put words to, and you really want to flesh it out. Yeah. And some of the experiments we've done, it's like, oh, I got just a flicker or a taste or something, and now I'm chasing it. Yeah. And the same thing, like a lot of times I would get most of my inspirations when I was going to sleep. Mm-hmm. I'd just get like a flash of kind of an image, but it wasn't exactly how I wanted it to be in the end. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to find it now. I wanted to figure it out. I wanted to sketch it and like retool it and rework it. I honestly, I don't think I've heard you phrase it that way, but I think it's a very similar mentality. Why maybe artists are more open to the possibilities.
Yeah, and tuned to like the psychic stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the Ganzfeld. What is the Ganzfeld experiment, first of all? It came out, it was set up in the 1930s to study sensory deprivation. But it was also used again in the 1970s by Charles Honorton to study psychic ability. So basically the experiment went, one person is watching a TV screen, and they're watching images on the screen. And the other person in another room is sitting under a red light, and they have ping pong balls over their eyes. So they got one ping pong ball, it's cut in half, put over their eyes, red light on top, and they're also listening to white noise. And the person listening to the white noise in the Ganzfeld is supposed to pick up on these images that are being sent by the sender. So it's like a sender and receiver type of thing.
So they believe that sensory deprivation, because there's no other external stimulus, that it makes you more available to these opportunities?
Yes. That's the basic idea. So, but technically speaking, it's not really sensory deprivation. It's more like a unifying sensory input. Mm-hmm. So you have like this monochromatic image along with white noise. So it's kind of like it's a unifying thing for your brain. And that just kind of shuts off the rest of your senses, basically, and you can receive psychic input, you know. So, and I also want to bring it over to Jon now, and let's talk about the first time that I introduced this to you. So Jon is a really good friend because I came over and I was like, hey, do you want to try something weird? And he's like, hell yeah, I do.
Yeah. All my friends know. If you want to do something weird, I'm probably the one to ask. I'm always gonna be down. As long as it's not like gonna get us all killed immediately. Like if there's an option of death, I still might say yes. But like if it's obvious,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we go to set it up, and I have them like ping pong balls over the eyes, the red light. We get the white noise set up, and a disclaimer for the show: we do use a minute amount of psychedelics. So, and it's never like a huge amount, but we are using it for this scientific purpose. We are using it for to find out new information. So it's not like we take it just to be wild animals or whatever. But yeah, so that's what we did. We took a little bit of LSD, and had you go into it for the first time, and you have a story where you were like gone for a good 20-25 minutes the first time you ever tried it. So let's get into that.
For everyone's knowledge, the original Ganzfelds were not really on LSD or mushrooms.
No, it was not.
And I guess this is the wrong reference, and James will chastise this for me. In a sense, consider the George Clooney movie, The Men Who Stare at Goats. They were not trying to directly do that, but it was like government-funded psychic experiments to try and figure out the limits of the human brain.
Right.
And most of the research shows results, but also like nothing substantial. It's why they kind of stopped doing the experiments for the most part. Well, what we know. A lot of it, if it was good, they're not going to tell anyone. But like, so for us, it was like, well, let's do it. And let's push it further. Let's see where we're like. And this is before mushrooms and ketamine started becoming somewhat legalized for mental health.
And stuff
but
that,
we already kind of we had done it enough times that we knew like there's something about taking mushrooms, especially that really just kind of opens you up to possibilities. It's relaxing and stressful at the same time, but you really feel like I could go try anything in a sense right now.
Right.
So originally it was, hey, you want to take some mushrooms and hang out? And I was like, okay, cool, yeah. Of course. And then he brings this in, and he's got like a ping pong ball cut in half and a fucking light, and just, which I'm kind of used to because we did films together, but I was still really confused. And so I would say like he said, we didn't take a lot. We took enough to like get some results, get some visuals, but we're not trying to fucking go to a rave or like just lose our minds. Like this was just casual. Let's hang out and take a little mushrooms. And so, I guess to respond to your previous point of it not really being sensory deprivation, it still kind of feels like it. Like when you get in, the first thing usually was we'd like put the ping pong ball over the eyes, which because it's not snug, you can still see out of the corners. But the moment he'd turn on the red light, like it overwhelms your entire vision. Eyes open or closed, all you see is just this bloodshot red in your eyes. Which is obviously unnerving. We're still animals that when you remove a sense that you're used to, you hit a bit of a panic. And then put the white noise on, and now I know James is with me, and I know I trust him inherently. He's one of my best friends. But I still feel like I'm kind of floating on my own. It's kind of like being in a sensory deprivation tank that like you can rent out. Like, you're safe. You're not when you're this like hippie establishment where everyone's talking really quiet. Like, dude, the water, bro, you just like float and it takes you. Like, it's that. But like you still are anxious. You're scared like the first time you do it. You feel out of your element.
Yeah.
And so at first it was just I think about getting comfortable with the scenario, like getting to the point where like I'm not hyperventilating. I don't need to rip these headphones off. Like I can sit here and enjoy this. And then basically the exact moment that happened is when the drugs started to kind of have their influence too. And at this point, we have now done this with and without. And you still will get results if you really relax and meditate and focus on your breathing and do the Ganzfeld. You'll still get some weird, but the drugs exaggerate. So the first one was like a quick in and out, but the second one we did a 20-minute. I said, I want to go see where I can find, like, let's go all in.
Oh yeah, that's right. The first time you did it was just like you just put them on and you're like, oh my god, I'm seeing like Mandelbrot.
Yeah.
Like kaleidoscopic type things.
A lot of fractals.
Fractals and stuff like that. Yeah. So, and then the second time you went in, like, and this is why we started doing like 10-minute intervals.
Yeah. We started timing it.
because it's like if someone can float away a little too much,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. You can get
into
a little
the
lost in
ether.
it.
Yeah.
I would also say you can get lost in it, and there's a weird addiction to it. I would say, like, we've experimented with it a lot, and it's more of a thirst for knowledge and understanding. But there's definitely times you're like, it felt like the most removed from reality and life and everything that comes with it than I'd ever experienced. And as a person with depression, I was like, good, let's leave. Let's never come back. I hate this shit. But then once it starts to warp, that's when there's a whole new thirst for knowledge. And the first thing I noticed, so you're hearing white noise, and I imagine most people listening to this have heard a white noise machine or has a white noise app to sleep and shit. And it's just a like that's it. That was probably more obnoxious than a white noise machine is ever intended to be. So it's just this gentle kind of gritty hum. And then slowly you could feel it warp. And the way I described it was like crinkling plastic. Like if the plastic more made that white noise kind of effect and you really just started wrenching it and it starts to feel like it's bending and warping and changing into different noises. And then it almost felt like its own entity. Like it didn't feel like the noise was just coming in through two speakers in my ears. It was in an existence and moving around me. And also at the same time, you're getting fractals, which if you don't know what these are, I hope you do. Please just look up fractals. It's like certain plants, like cactus plants. I can't think of what I'm trying to say. What's the ones you barely got to water? They're not really a cactus, but they're like deserty, and they always have often have spiral patterns.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know. Yeah.
My girlfriend will be so mad at me because she owns these, and I bought a couple with her. Anyways, the moment you Google fractals, you're going to see a lot of how that is in nature. Right. Kind of like how there's a lot of like
a
snail shell spirals and all these things that come in that have almost a mathematical equation that we can't really figure out.
Yes.
Like fractals feel real and almost alive and almost like they have something
natural.
It's both calming and fascinating, but they seem like it's more like a dance than it is just like it's not like when you rub your eyes and you just like see stuff. Like there's patterns and almost feels like intention behind some fractals. So those start to exaggerate, and then the white noise starts to exaggerate, and then it was like trying to listen to where the white noise was going and what it was doing, and it slowly became things that I could recognize, sounds I could recognize, and then it slowly became voices. And what I found to be the most honestly terrifying and alluring. And when I came out, I told James all this, and it blew his mind a little bit too, because he was more knowledgeable of these things, is hearing originally just like voices in the distance that you can't make out their words, like they're talking around a corner and you're trying to lean in and you just can't get it, to full ass conversations. Like it happened both slowly and immediately, where I felt like I had just run into a person in the middle of a conversation, and he just kept going. And the way I equated it more so to James was I felt like I jumped into someone else's thought process. Like when you monologue with yourself, when you're just like going about your day, like, oh, I got to do this, but also like I'm kind of mad at him, and also like, oh, I'm so mad. Like your thoughts to yourself are fractured because you don't have to keep a coherence. It's you. You know what you're saying. It felt like that. I felt like I jumped into a completely incoherent thought that had already begun well before I got there, and I was just listening to it.
It's just like pieces of thoughts.
Pieces, and I would jump around to other ones. Like they would kind of like, one would fall out, and the next one would come in. There was one that was particularly long towards the end of the session because I think I was really good at meditating and relaxing into it. But it was scary because I wouldn't say that I would describe my inner monologue as a voice that I hear. But you talk to yourself, you figure things out, you have conversations. It didn't, I'm going to say sound, I'm going to do air quotes that you can't see them, but it sounded like somebody else. It didn't sound like me, which when it's inside your head, that's unnerving.
It's weird.
Suddenly I felt distant from my own body. I didn't feel locked in any capacity. And I rode that conversation. I wish that we had done this podcast closer to that so I could actually talk about what I heard. But it was just so overstimulating that I came out and I told James everything I could hear. And it scared him because he knows me well enough to know that's not the way I would kind of put these thoughts together. And it was very unnerving. It was the most loose I've ever felt from my body. And like I've tried different hallucinogens in the past. I've done sensory deprivation tanks. Like I've tried to do things to create being loose from my body. Meditation. I try to do what's the sleep thing? I can't think about it. The term. Lucid dreaming.
Lucid dreaming, yeah. Yep.
Like I've tried to do lucid dreaming. I think I'm just too anxious and have too many things in my head at any time to ever get relaxed enough to lucid dream. But it felt like that. It felt like I was out somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it was equal parts scary and fascinating.
Yeah. And you said that like it would be like it felt like one person, and then it felt like another person.
Yeah.
It felt like you were jumping from
around
person to person.
Like if you were just walking through a public park and everyone was having different conversations, but it was one person talking in each party, in a sense, in each thought.
And it was like you couldn't really, could you make out any words, or was it just?
Oh no, yeah, totally. By the time I got to the point where I kind of was like, the first ones, no. The first ones, it was just like you could just kind of hear like, sorry, I did it again, like, but like it had the intonation of speech, like it sounded like someone was speaking with a purpose,
like a neighbor through the wall.
Yeah, but all I could hear is just like shit like that. So when I started to hear words, that's when I could tell, like, oh, I feel like I've interrupted a thought, because I don't know how, if this is my brain, I don't know where this thought started, why I would think this is not my shit, like, this is not what I dwell on, and someone's having a moment, and then it would fall away, and then I'd find another one, like, again, shit I don't think about. And like, it's kind of like, sure, like when you hear your voice the first time, you're like, why do I sound like an idiot, and I sound terrible. In a sense, like, you know what you sound like in your head, even though it's not a real sound or language, and it felt so foreign. It was like I could hear a voice of a human without hearing a voice. Like, it was like pattern of speech, like how people, everyone talks different. It felt like that in its own weird way, and I knew it wasn't me from the moment I heard it. There's like, this is not me. Yeah. And I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah. That was super weird. So when you came out of it, I was like, holy shit, because I was just like, hey, this sounds like a fun thing to do. And usually when you do the Ganzfeld experiment, there's a sender and there's a receiver. So you're supposed to be picking up on some kind of information that's being sent to you. We didn't have a sender. It was just like you just being the receiver. Yeah. And it was just like, so your brain just started like, it's like, I equated it to like radio stations on like a car radio.
We're going to show our age. Like, I don't think cars do this anymore. No one searches for radio signals. They all got fucking Sirius FM and shit. Like, everyone knows what they want to listen. Like, but yeah, when you put like the not tune, but the one where you just like, it just like
seek button.
Yeah, just seek. Yeah, it goes to a channel for 5 seconds. You're like, fuck that shit. That's some crap. Yeah. Oh, religious channel. Great. And then like, it just bounces around. You're like, oh, that's a good song. Yeah. That's how it felt. I felt like I was searching stations of thought. And I knew it wasn't mine. And it was
so weird. And it's freaky when you actually do it. Yeah. So if anybody wants to do it, I would definitely recommend having someone there with you. Yeah. To pull you out of it.
And don't do it the first time on drugs, please.
Do it sober. Yeah, that's our disclaimer. So
it was definitely equal parts foolish on our part, because we were definitely younger, and also we had experimented with hallucinogens. We were doing it in my home with just us. We were being safe. Like, all of the parameters of hallucinogen use was in control. Like, we didn't have randos. We weren't partying. We weren't drinking hard. It was my house, hit me and James, all, in a relaxed, comfortable state. Yeah. So, like, don't just, like, be like, hey, I heard this podcast. You guys want to trip balls at my place? And, like, you just get fucking weird and put a light in your face. Like, just, like, warm up to it. It can be a little unnerving.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. So after you had that session, like, I was like, okay, I'll fucking do it now. So I laid down and I put them on, and it kind of takes a minute because, like, I was like really nervous and really tense at first, but then I started to relax and ease into it, and then I just kind of let my mind go, and then it started like I can hear the warping like you're talking about. So it's like it's just white noise, and then it goes from like one side to the other, and it starts to sound like like a ship at sea is like, and then the sound warps into like wow, 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 that kind of stuff. And then I start hearing voices, but the voices are muffled and they're way in the background. People
But it
are
still
saying.
feels like speech. It has the patterns there's speech usually has intent, even
And,
if
like,
it's shitty intent.
yeah, and a
or lazy
cadence.
intent. There's something
Yeah.
behind it.
There's a back and forth like, no, oh no, blah 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 blah. You know, yeah, conversation, yeah. So that's what I started hearing, and then it got really weird for me because then I heard like footsteps, and then it felt
I
like
forgot about that part.
yeah,
You get this a lot when we do this together. You always think I'm moving around the room.
yeah.
And I'm almost always sitting completely still and just staring at you because I'm fascinated.
Yeah, because I got out of it, like, you know, I did it for like maybe 5-10 minutes, and then I sat up and I was like, were you just walking next to me? And you're like, no, I was sitting there the entire time. You know, I'm like, God damn. I'm like, it felt like Jon was like just walking right next to me.
And I'll support that. Like, since we've done other experiments that, in a sense, often utilize some level of sensory deprivation, like the ghost box or
yeah.
whatever, it almost every single time feels like there is active movement around you. Like, in a sense, I would kind of put it into more of like an animalistic view of like, you're sleeping and you can just tell someone in your dorm room or your parents, or like you just know someone's moving. You have no reason or justification. You can't prove it, but you just know. Or like when your hackles raise and you're like, someone is watching me, and I don't know why. But it feels much closer. It feels a lot more intimate, and it feels like someone is literally like could brush against your shoulder at any moment. They're that close, but then there's no one there.
There's no one there. It's like it's like if you're in a relationship with somebody, so your partner comes up to you and is just like right next to you. If they're without even touching you, like you can sense that they're right there. You know, you get that sense, and that's what happens when you do the Ganzfeld like that. Is that you get this sense as like someone is like right up against you.
Or multiple someones. Like,
or multiple.
You don't, once you start grooving, you don't feel, you feel like you're in an abyss, and you don't feel like you're alone.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Because you know your buddy's there, but it doesn't feel like your buddy's there, and it feels like you're alone.
Oh, it's so weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird doing that shit because it's like, oh, just like you said, you feel like you're in an abyss, and you feel like other people are there, but it's not the guy in the room with you. Oh,
it doesn't even feel like someone who even knows maybe that you're there. It feels like you're just, like if you just turned lights off in a fucking public building and there was no way to see, like you would know who's next to you, and it's not like they're a threat to you. They're just wandering around aimlessly like you, but you're doing this in your brain. You're doing this in this brain meditative liminal obscurity that's flooded with red light.
Yeah. It's like, I guess kind of like being in a movie theater where it's all dark, but there's like, you can tell people are around you.
Well, except for I don't threaten to fight anyone, and when I'm doing the Ganzfeld like I would in a movie theater, because I hate people in movie theaters.
Yeah, they can be pretty terrible.
They're obnoxious. Like, let me have a moment.
Oh, let's see. Look at my notes here.
Want to take a quick pause?
Yeah, let's take
this
it.
anyways.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the other portion of the Ganzfeld stuff that we do. So we like to mix remote viewing with the Ganzfeld experiment. And what remote viewing is it was a program in the 70s and 80s that the government had.
This is the actual men who stare at goats portion, like I
Yes.
alluded to earlier.
Yes.
This is the more
That's the-
literal part of that illusion.
Yeah. So that program was started because it was actually in response to what the Russians were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So the U.S. government's like, we can't be, falling behind, and we got to have basically the same tech. So I won't go too much into the history of it, but basically,
that would be fun for another podcast episode. Though, like really just hit a hard history episode,
Yeah, we'll do a deep dive on another episode. But the basic idea of remote viewing is you're sitting in a room and you're writing out a set of completely random numbers. And what you will do is you create what is called a gestalt. And from that gestalt, you start to describe what a certain target is. So someone will take a picture of something and then put it inside a manila envelope and have a coordinating number that is assigned to that. So you write out the numbers, you create the gestalt, and then you describe it, basically what the idea is of that target. And this is what we did with the Ganzfeld experiment. So we're mixing that with psychedelics, with Ganzfeld remote viewing, and it got weird. It got pretty strange.
I will say, so as much as I love doing these things with James, and this is definitely the high strangest of things he had asked me to do, but I just always love doing them. Like, I'm just kind of always down for something, so it sounded weird and bizarre, and why not? We're just hanging out and like just taking mushrooms together. Like, let's just, let's do something weird. It's kind of like the same mentality as art, like we were talking about. Like, it's just, I'm down to see what we can do. And so, and what I really find interesting about it, like he said, is that it is not just like, oh, the men who stared at goats concept, like they just did that. Let's just replicate it. And lucid dreaming. It was just kind of like a smattering of a lot of different things. Like, well, they all seem loosely affiliated. Why don't we just kind of roll with it? So I was intrigued. The way that James did it, and I'd never really heard or done, I had no experience with this, is that he had multiple manila envelopes with just sheets from magazines. Most of them were like they're image based.
Yeah.
James knew a few of them in the envelopes and also was unfamiliar with others. So that there was some where he like kind of blindly stuffed the envelope in a sense to, if there is a possibility that if there's a conduit and a receiver that he could potentially be sending me the answers, like the knowledge.
Yeah, some kind of subconscious cue I could give you. But
so we wanted to reduce that possibility. And also we were just like, man, we're just having a good fucking time. We're just like, let's do it. This is great.
Yeah.
And so on each manila envelope was a series of numbers, just completely randomized numbers.
Yep.
And the instruction to me was to write the numbers just over and over and over and over and over again until I kind of got a comfort with them. And in my just like ignorance to the whole thing, I was like, okay, I want to write it on the actual envelope. I feel like I want to have like a tactile connection to this envelope. So I just write it over and over and over and over and over again. And then I, put on the headphones with the white noise and got into the speaker or under the red light. And I still made sure I could touch the manila envelope and had a pen, and I continued to write the numbers. And anyone who knows, if you try to write anything with your eyes closed, you're just scribbling, but it feels like you're writing it. Like, so I felt like I was writing the numbers over and over again, and I was just scribbling. And then I was just told to describe what I see, and and this is what is very frustrating to me personally, but it was like, not like, oh, you're gonna see a scene. It's a hotel in New York. It's a old Cadillac. It wasn't. It was just like, you're going to get blips. You're going to get a flash. You're going to get a thing that you might not be able to explain what the literal thing is, but it's going to just give you, and you need to stay relaxed. And these are things where I'm not good at. I'm a control freak. I'm like, I want to grab onto it.
Yeah.
So he's like, you're just going to get a flash or something. And if you stay with it and you stay relaxed, it should evolve and become more clear or give you more hints.
In the prompt I gave him was like staying away from like nouns.
Yeah.
And you have to stick with describing words. So if it's round, if it's large, if it's small, if it's gooey or soft or sandpaper like, and staying away from nouns, because nouns they're not necessarily bad, but it is a sense of the conscious mind coming in and trying to control everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that sense of control again, like trying to and the brain's like, I have the answer, here it is.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to like stray away from that, and you have to stick to your describer words. So it's like, it is kind of frustrating too, because that whole picture is not going to come to you in a split second. it's going to come into you into tiny little pieces, and you have to describe those pieces to the other person. So,
And I would say, honestly, I think because we've already spent a lot of time talking, I would like to do a second episode talking about what happened with the experiments post. Because this one, I was green. I had no idea.
Yeah,
James wanted
I
to
had no
party
idea,
and
yeah.
like try something out, so I was just ready to roll. And after what happened this time, I could never replicate the results. I could never find it again. And I think it was because I was seeking. I was trying to find, I was trying to control. That's very much my personality. And that's what this is. This is about being intentional and relaxed and allowing it to come to you. And then just describing, like, being comfortable with the vagary. Like, oh, I think it's this. It kind of looks like a tree line. No, maybe it's a series of houses. Maybe, like, you just stab in the dark and be comfortable with that. Not my personality. But anyways, so here we are. I'm like, I've written the numbers down. I'm getting into the zone. The red light is turning into fractals. The white noise is starting to crack and crinkle and do weird shit. But because my focus was on visual things, I didn't get the voices. It was more about following the fractals. And what I started to say was like, and also mind you, this is like 3 years ago now, so it's not as strong in my memory as it was before. But the most poignant things was I was saying, like, I see like a man. I think it's like a man. It looks like he's in profile. Like I kind of see like him sitting. I kind of see like his arm on his knee. It looks like he's wearing like he's got a shirt on. Maybe it's a tank top. It has a pattern. The thing I remember specifically saying was the pattern felt like a cross hatching, kind of more plaid, but like it was a strong part of the image was some sort of lines on his shirt. I was like, I see water. I just see water. I can't tell you why. It's not literal. It's more like a feeling. I feel like there's things draping in front of him. There's these different, I don't know. I think I'm getting tropical. I'm getting palm trees. Like I'm getting, like I just started describing a lot of, I think I got really stuck in a tropical loop for a while where it's just like palm trees, water, da 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 da. Kept going. I was like, but it's not like Florida. This feels like, really fucking tropical. And then it also kind of morphed from like the man with the patterned shirt and like the things draping around him like garland or something. And I was like, well, it's kind of different now. I feel like I'm seeing in fisheye. I was like, I cannot tell you why I see fisheye. This is bizarre. Like and me and James like do film stuff, so like it made sense. Or like I could really understand. Like I'm getting that effect where you see a little beyond your peripherals because of fisheye, and the things right in front of it are stretched and warped. I was like, again, water, tropics. I was like, I feel like there's there's water on my eyes. Like, I feel like it's like I just came out of the water and the water is still like cascading down my eyes. So like it's warping my vision.
you see like Caribbean vibe.
Yeah. I kept going into
you get,
tropics.
like, that tropical.
And when we, honestly, I get goosebumps even thinking about it. When I pulled the paper out, this is one of the magazine pieces that James actually was not familiar with, so he was just letting me just run.
It's totally like a double blind test.
It's just I was just running, and James was like, okay. I think honestly at that point you were just fascinated that I had so many descriptors.
Yeah.
You were just kind of expecting me to be like, I don't know, I see red.
I thought he was just gonna get, like, I told him too. I was like, you're probably only gonna get like one or two things. You're probably not gonna get the entire scene. You're probably gonna get little snippets.
Yeah, just some little tiny aspect of it,
Yeah.
like maybe a pattern, maybe a shape. And I'm just kind of going and going and going and just enjoying myself. I'm like, I'm just, I'm just kind of on mushrooms, right? And like, it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we pull this thing out, and it's a double-sided magazine piece, and there's images on both sides. And I almost, it makes me mad because I've never been able to prove that this fucking happened to anyone. Like, I can't replicate my results. But the first image was a man and a woman sitting on a sailboat, and the woman was sitting in between his legs and resting up against him. And there was a couple times I kept being like I see this dude, but there's something else. There's like something is impeding his shape. I can't figure it out. He was wearing a white tank top with a really like very noticeable not stripes, but you know how like tank tops often like the old school God, I hate they occasionally old school, like they'll use the shitty term like wife beaters, which honestly I despise the name of that.
Tank top.
But like that
Yeah,
that
tank
specific undershirt tank top
Right.
has like a ribbing effect. Like there's like it's like stripes, but it's in the fabric itself. It's not a color. It is a
like
pattern
cotton.
to the fabric.
Yeah.
He had something like that on, but it was really prominent. So one of the things, like I said, I got stuck on was the pattern, like the striping or a plattishness. And so when I saw it, I was like, that's exactly what I was seeing. And then I was talking about how he's tropical. He's on a sailboat. He's obviously on the water. And there was a lot of ropes dangling, because it's a sailboat. There was a lot of ropes dangling. And I was like, there's like garland. There's like branches. And they're all drooping and like swooping down near him. I was like, fuck, that's really on point. And one of the things that I had said in the moment was like Caribbean islands. Yeah. There was like a huge... like not animated, but like font with like inside the letters was like tropical like clip art, and it said Caribbean right above this couple. I was like, well, that's fucking alarming. And I flipped it over out of just pure intrigue, and on the other side, I think this is the one that actually like extra fucked me up, and extra because. It was okay. So the one of the couple was quite large. It wasn't like a half spread. It was probably like a quarter of the size of the page. It was quite prominent. Yeah. On the other side, it was a very tiny image of a woman on a wakeboard, also in the Caribbean, with a fisheye lens, and there was water on the lens.
On the lens,
and I fucking lost it. I honestly, like, seeing like, okay, I see droopy shit. Maybe it's trees, maybe it's branches. I can see my pattern-making brain like go, oh yeah, there's the ropes. Oh, I saw a dude with a pattern. Like, oh yeah, how many dudes wear fucking flannels and tank tops and things with pattern? Like, I feel like that stab in the dark, you could find results. But the fact that I fucking said like tropics, water in my eyes, fisheye lens, and that all happened on the next page, like I wanted to fucking scream. I wanted to scream and run away. I could not. I could not make it fucking like compute in my goddamn brain what I had just done. And to this day, I have never been able to replicate the fucking results. I can't do it again because I'm a control freak. Yeah. We tried it there was like a year of like twice a month doing this shit with and without hallucinogenics.
Because you're trying so hard to do it. It
was
like
hard. I wanted to prove this shit because if I went from skeptic to fuck me, this is entirely real. I have to show everyone. No one believes me. I'm a fucking dude on mushrooms, and everyone thinks I'm an asshole. Like, I can't show you this happen. Like, for a couple of years, I still have that magazine paper somewhere.
Piece of paper.
But I have a new friend living in what was my bedroom, and so a lot of the things are now just scattered with his stuff. I'll never find it again. Yeah. But like, I took photos of it. Me and James talked over it extensively. Like. We recorded some of this, like just to kind of like have an idea, like to prove that but like not that session. Yeah. But we knew that everything else we recorded lined up with the memory of the moment. So this also had to line up. This wasn't just like the mushrooms peaked and we lost our shit and it was cool. Like it was too real.
It was.
I will
real.
comfortably tell everyone I have taken enough hallucinogenics to be fairly fucking calm on them. I would say I'm probably like sadly a realist on hallucinogens. I'm kind of the one who watches everyone in the room. I don't want to get lost. I don't want to completely lose my mind on the drugs. Right. I want to be present and enjoy them as a relaxation, as a meditation. I don't want to just like, I'm in another world. I'm on drugs. And part of that is the control freak in me. I think I'm too paranoid to get fully loose. And usually I'm doing mushrooms or hallucinogen with friends. And I kind of want to keep an eye on the room. I want to make sure things don't go south. Yeah. So I think I over control when I'm on things. And I was totally the same way when I took these mushrooms. And so I trust my judgment. I trust what I saw, and the fact that you had the exact same experience. And like, if anyone has ever taken drugs, hallucinogens, you don't know when it's seeing the same fucking thing, man. Everyone's like, dude, like the walls are warping and breathing. The other guy's like, I see a fucking elephant coming out of that painting. The other guy's like just watching Rick and Morty and doesn't give a shit. Like, but everyone's on their own path. You don't often feel aligned in what you see. And we saw it together. It had to be real.
It was crazy. Like I was fucking scared and also like delighted at the same time. I'm like, holy shit, how could this possibly be real? And they say like with Ganzfeld and with psychedelics, there come hallucinations. But how could Jon hallucinate inside a closed envelope that he didn't look into and I didn't even know what it was? I put on a blindfold and I put that picture into the manila envelope. So there's no way. And like I saw, he didn't like peek through it with put it over the light or anything like that.
Yeah, the whole
He
thing was controlled. Like you were running the show, and I was just like, sure, whatever. I'll do whatever James wants.
Plus,
I'll hang out.
How could he peek if he didn't know what the fuck we were doing?
No, I had no idea what we were doing. I just thought it was silly. And
you're like, okay, I don't know what I'm
I
doing.
don't gotta work today. Fuck it. That's great.
But yeah, so a lot of it was so on point, and we did like 3.
It was too much.
Yeah, we did 3 different targets. There was I forgot what the first one was. The second one was like a camera lens, and the third one was that Caribbean scene.
The camera lens, I was close enough for us to go, ooh, interesting, but not close enough to freak us out. And yeah.
By the third time, it was like exact, like on.
I get too many details, like shirt patterns. I remember not seeing the woman, but knowing something was there. Like I couldn't put it together, but like it all, like the way I described it to James. Like obviously, anyone who knows anything about memory is memory warps with time. You retell the story, you rethink about the memory, and you exaggerate. You do whatever, and then that becomes the new part of the memory. Yeah. But like me and James corroborate a lot of the details and remember a lot. Like I might have been maybe a hair more vague than we're describing now because we've told this story so many times. We find it fascinating, but still way too on point. It turned me from a fucking casual like cynic who just likes spooky ookums and silly things to like, oh, I want to figure out to me now, this is like a science to me. Like I keep making James, let's do another experiment. Let's try it this way. Yeah. Let's try it this way. Okay, that didn't work. How can I do it differently next time? Yeah. Like I will become really intense. Like, oh, I think I overthought last time and I lashed into this. So this time I'm going to do this. And I probably just annoy the crap out of James when I get into that level because I obsess. But like to me now it's science. I need to create results. I need to show people. Not even just so I can be like, look what I did and you guys are all lame. I'm cool. It's just like, no, I want everyone to try this. This is fucking fascinating.
Yeah, and it's like, and for me too, it's like, I've been interested in this stuff for a long time now, and like I've done like remote viewing sessions just by myself with just pen and paper without the Ganzfeld or psychedelics, and I've gotten some weird stuff before, but again, that's just me like by myself. So like in one particular session, I was getting some senses of like I'm getting like this flapping. It's like something is flapping against something, and I'm hearing like this tinging sound. And it seems like cloth. So, and then when I took the picture out of the envelope to get the feedback, it was a flag. So I was like, that was a pretty spooky moment. I was like, holy shit. So, but that still was not enough to convince me. So when I came overnight, we did the Ganzfeld experiment, and we also used remote viewing. It's
kind of like
techniques.
I accidentally convinced you of the things you were already convinced of.
Yeah.
Like, I'm convinced these can happen, but I have no proof. Holy shit, Jon did it. Fuck this. All right.
Like, oh,
all right.
Wow.
All right, we can do this.
It's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of freaky too, because it's like, well, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. Like, what
are the possibilities?
Yeah, it's like anybody can do this, because you hear about like there's natural psychics who help the police department, or someone who wakes up in the middle of the night and calls someone and says, "Hey, are you okay?" "No, I just got into a car accident." Little things like that. But then when you like witness it, right in front of you,
I would say that I have in a like not a psychic example. I've told this to, I think I've told this to you. I've told it to my partner. Like sometimes I have a freakishly good internal clock. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I can just nail time. Like I know. The other day I was riding to work, and it's about a 20-something minute ride, depending on my bicycle, to work. And, these things change with wind, they change with traffic, whatever. And I knew it was just running a little late, so I was really paranoid at the time. And I got a certain distance and went, I'm going to be there at 11:37. I feel very confident. 11:37, maybe 11:38. I think I just did 10 minutes on the ride. Like it's both because I do it enough to have the experience, but I showed up and it was literally 11:37. Like, but that's not a good example of psychic abilities. That's just predictability. I can be really anxious, and so sometimes time is really important. I'm like, I got to be on time, or I'm going to be late because I'm I'm often late. So it's just like, fuck, dude, I'm going to be late and they're going to be mad. Like, I know exactly how late I'm going to be. But I wouldn't equate that to psychic abilities. That's just like, it's my internal clock. It's something. And so this was kind of like taking the same element and putting it in such a way of like, you cannot deny that this is something beyond your reasoning. That definitely happened. It was definitely some sort of psychic thing. You cannot explain this away as easily as like, that's an internal clock. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like it plagues me to this day because I know something is there. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I have any control of it. I don't know if it was a fleeting moment that will torture me to the day I die. I know nothing, but I know it happened, and I know there's possibility.
Yeah.
It's the Mulder poster.
Yeah.
You know,
I want to believe.
I want to believe.
Yeah.
I just at this point now
Exactly.
I want to believe. And similar to him, like he had to put crazy shit to science. He had to like go, I know I have seen a monster in a sewer with a butthole mouth.
Yeah.
And it's all white, and I need to prove it to the entire world, and no one is going to believe me for every season. Like
Yeah.
it starts to feel like that. You feel like I'm a fucking crazy person. Like there's no way that should happen.
Yeah.
But I want to show you it happened, so I don't feel crazy. And also it's fascinating. It was like I'm not a religious person. I grew up kind of religious, and it kind of like it expounded that same thing you see in religious people. Like, well, what's heaven? What is God? What is like the desire to see something?
to
well,
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
I want to fucking know now.
That's what the whole
what
like,
I touched.
the fucking whole psychonaut
Mm-hmm.
behavior is like I want to know. I want to know what's out there.
And no one has good
Yeah.
answers. People who've written multiple psychonaut books and taken every drug in the sun,
Yeah.
done meditations all across the world, and they're just like, I don't fucking know, man.
Yeah.
Like this is what I did.
I'm sure there's some guy out there like right now, like reading a text and he's like a burning book. All right, I guess I'll just
All right.
copy that.
Bunch
That's
of
kind of weird.
idiots.
All right, sure. A bush talk to you? Okay. Yeah. You want to take a little break?
Take a little break,
And,
scene, come back.
Yeah.
A little
come back
commercial
into it.
break. Listen to
Commercial
the
break. Listen to my
lovely
ads.
sounds of whatever commercial we've
Yeah.
purchased to be on this. No, I'm kidding.
Squarespace.
Squarespace.
All right. And we're back from our lovely break. But that is all we have for this episode. So tune in. I'm sure John will come back on the podcast.
Oh yeah, I'd love to be
Yeah.
around as much as possible. Like this is your show. I don't want to like. Also, I don't have a lot of time to be like a proper
It's
co-host.
true. He's very busy these
But
days.
I'm really glad
Yeah.
you're doing this, and I want to be a part of it. There's fun things
Oh,
to
yeah.
talk about, and I always like when you teach me crazy, creepy things that I don't know about.
In future episodes, we will be doing Ganzfeld experiments on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So we will be recording as we're doing it, and we're gonna see some weird shit, and we're gonna tell you all about it.
All about it. You get to hear it. It's gonna sound really boring. Also, we should probably get video of that so you can be like, because I
Yeah.
can just describe shit and be like, oh my god, he totally did it. No, we have to record video. So
Yeah,
we
we
can
gotta
people.
do some video. We'll probably
And
put
you're
it on
mostly just
YouTube
gonna
or
see me
something.
get mad because I
Yeah.
can't do it again. This has been years. I've been plagued by this for years. I would say that anyone who knows me would say like, yeah, John's not like a spiritual type or like he's really intense and likes art stuff, but like this is not the shit I talk about to people. So I feel like
No.
this is not my personality, and I am so fucking fascinated about keep doing this stuff with you and doing more Ganzfelds. I'm psyched.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. So tune in for more episodes, and we will see you later.